Where are we pointing right now? We're pointing kind of down. Okay, I'm back in the shop. But where does that put us at the moment? What am I doing today? I am actually a little kind of flippy-floppy right now in my approach at the moment, because I don't know how to better explain it, to be honest with you. I really don't know how to better explain it. Now that we're, I don't want to say past the puppet portion, because there's still things that need to be done with the puppet. I'm finding it difficult to figure out the next step on how I approach the head integration, the hat. I know what I need to do. It's just the order of operations of what I need to do it and how. There is a few other puppet details that need to occur that I need to address. And again, I'm kind of floundering at the moment. I did go pick up, this is just a small piece of it. I don't know if the camera can pick it up or not. For some reason, man, sometimes the camera is really, really blown out. Sometimes it's not. Does closing this help at all? A little. So I got that pink board over there. That's going to be that's what we're going to be using for the hat. I thought that maybe I could try to repurpose again this kind of foam and like double it up on itself, but I thought that was going to be too squishy. And I thought the benefit of the pink foam, especially with the fabric I chose, is that because it is a more porous kind of fabric, everything's, again, I'm kind of floundering in my mind right now because there's so much, again, imposed time clocks on my own self, so on and so forth. We've already been all over this. It's just a new step. It's just a new phase in the project, and I'm kind of having a hard time starting the next step because there's things that still need to be done with him. There's still things that need to be done. Well, there's still things that need to be done with the puppet. There's still things that need to be modified to get it to where it needs to be, that I'll feel comfortable, that I'll be like done with it. And so I'm kind of, I'm floundering. I've already said this. See, I feel like it's apparent, isn't it? So I'm just trying to figure out where I start. And I think starting, I don't know. I don't really know. Maybe cleaning up. It's a strange way to start because I should normally end with a cleanup, but I think a good spruce up here will do us a good bit for sure. I think that's it's a great place to begin. I can move some things out of the way that we don't really need as much of, or we don't need as much of in the immediate moment. But then again, I've really kind of strewned myself about now, so everything's kind of all which ways, and you see what I mean. I hope what I'm trying to impart here is coming off as what it is, and that is, headless chicken kind of stuff. So I'm going to clean up. I'm going to clean up first. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to clean up. I'm going to try to regain some control of my space here in a way that I can actually start to once again feel as if the area is under my control, so that I can then control what I then do next. I know that I'm repeating myself right now. I'm sorry. It's just, again, I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm apologizing. It's not like there's a need for me to apologize for this kind of thing. It's just, it is interesting. This whole scenario I've built up for myself, and again, self-imposed time clocks, and we don't really know when things are going to be announced, if they're going to be announced right now, at this very moment, in the next 3 days, in the next 2 weeks, who knows? And I don't, and that's kind of the issue, right? That, like, I don't know when things are going to really start to solidify for me that it is either done or I don't know why I'm doing all this right now. Not the project. I know why I'm doing the project, obviously. I'm very adamant on knowing what I'm doing with the So Said project, but it's more so all the surrounding factors, and I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm just, I wish I could be, better verbiaged. I wish I could have a better explanation for why I don't have a good explanation at the moment. But also, there is the other fact that, like, what explanation could I actually give that would mean anything of value right now? Or is there even a necessary need for an explanation? Because I've kind of already laid out what I'm trying to achieve, or what I want to achieve, and we can kind of see, or I feel like it is in some ways evident that the project is moving on compared to where it was and how it was. And now it really does just kind of come down to what I do next, or what steps then come next, then really define the path of the project. Oh, God, why am I floundering so hard today? I don't have a good reason, if I'm being honest with you. I had a pretty good idea of how I was going to approach this day last night. Like, once I got all done with everything, and once all the social media post stuff was complete, I kind of knew what I wanted, or at least I knew, or I thought I knew, the pathway I was taking. And then I woke up this morning and I began the process of gathering the materials, mostly for the hat. It was getting the foam for the hat this morning. I got some spray paint for the foofs and the hamps, and yeah. God, man, why is this so hard right now? It shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be. It's simple, really. It's, if anything, I shouldn't even have gotten the foam at this point, because the puppet isn't done. It isn't past the stage where, because, like, I could get all of the hat, the cowl, all of that stuff figured out, but then I would still have to come back to the puppet and finish a few things. Like, I have to make the inlet, or the inlet cut, I should be more specific, at the top of the neck, because though we have a zipper, the QD slot is more right here, and I would like to have the zipper all the way fastened. And there's still parts of the zipper that need to be... In some ways, I'm driving myself a little crazy with this, because I don't know. It's interesting, really, this whole project for me. Because again, and I've been going back and I've been watching other parts of these videos. I've been kind of slacking on the actual video front, like going back through and trying to parse out these live streams, because I'm not an editor. I can never claim to be an editor. I had video production classes in high school, and I enjoyed it. And I kind of, for a while, at least in high school, I was into the idea that I kind of knew what I was going about, but then I was using a different program. I was using Final Cut, and now I'm using DaVinci, and those are two different things, and yet they're kind of the same thing. And I'm not even doing that very... I'm not doing sophisticated edits either. I'm just trying to break up all of my moments where I'm not saying anything, because there are long moments where I'm not saying anything, or I tend to have these drawn out pauses when I speak to a point where it's almost as if the thought doesn't leave the brain fully before the actual words leave my own skull. It's a... The floundering is evident, I do believe. I believe there is no way around the fact, or around the aspect of how much I am Ariel's friend at the moment. And then there's also the part of me that is a material hoarder. I'm always thinking, oh, but I might still need this little bit of X, or I don't need to throw away all of Y, or so on and so forth, that kind of thing. And so I'm sitting here looking at all these little scraps here and there and being like, well, maybe I could use it in this case, or maybe this could come in handy later. And then I have to really step back and say, James, is it actually going to come into handy later, or are you just kind of fixated on something where you don't want to get rid, or you don't want to lose, or goodness me. I just wish I could be a little bit more succinct right now. I feel like I'm not being succinct. And some days I feel better at it, and other days I feel as if, again, I'm just a flat fish. I'm just a flat fish. Trying to kind of reset, so again, I've already said this. I'm repeating myself, and that's never a good sign, because that just means that the brain really is stuck in an old loop, a real bad one. Bad in the sense that, like, it's having a difficulty, it's having a hard time breaking free from what is, throwing it into a one-track kind of mindset. And honestly, I just need to really calm down and start to once again try to enjoy the fact that we are making this, the fact that I was, what are we at? This is day 12, so 10 days ago, I was having that day where I started real well. I freaked out in the second part, and then I came back in that third part, and I felt a lot better. And it was so weird reviewing that last night, because it was so crazy, because I was so frustrated on the second day, and it almost made it seem as if I wanted everything completed on that second day. And then the same thing kind of happened with that 8th day in a weird way. And now I'm kind of frustrated. And I wouldn't even call, this is not a frustration. Frustration was definitely more, I could not achieve what I was trying to achieve in that moment. And because I could not achieve what I was trying to achieve in that very moment, that's why I was frustrated. Now I'm just, we're getting to that step where there's options again, and goodness me, when I start having options, I start thinking about my options, and I really don't need to think about options at the moment. I need to think about the practical nature of ones and twos and going forward, instead of whatever the hell this is right now. Two-dimensional aquatic animals. Okay, let's tone down. Let's move down our camera to better accurately assess the area. Let's wipe our day. Let's begin a new day. We are done, for the most part, the drafting of deer drapery. We're in day 12, and we really are mad. Ugh. Mad as a hatter. Because that really, it is the next step. It really is the next step, is the chopper head part, which involves me, which is, it's going to be interesting because I'm trying to use the tools in my arsenal that I have available to me, while also trying not to expend myself when it comes to certain aspects of this project. For example, I was pretty adamant in my want to go and purchase a wrestling headgear, because I believed that would serve as a good base for our cow. It would be a nice area, so it would pin down the ears, but it would also add the strap underneath the chin. And then from there, everything could kind of be attached onto it. But then when I started doing research, I found that one, wrestling headgear is a lot more expensive than I gave it credit for. I guess if it's a piece of sports equipment that people need, someone's going to upcharge, or maybe it really is that kind of cost expenditure. I don't know. I'm not a wrestler. I just thought it would be a good part to add to it. And so now my mind has kind of gotten on this idea, like, well, I have leather, I have the punches necessary, or at least I have a punch that will allow me to pop holes in said leather, and maybe instead of buying a $30, $40, $50 and some, because there's one that's like $23, but it has a lot of bad ratings, and people say that it kind of comes apart, and I don't know if I wanted something like that. And then the other ones kind of start jumping up in price. Again, floundering. So what I thought while I was at the department store buying my foam board for the hat, because again, that's a part that I kind of knew that's the way I wanted to do it, but again, I was floundering on, do I want to use the foam I already have so I don't have to go buy something else? Because like I said, a part of it, the other part is over there, and you can't buy the foam sheets. At least I couldn't find any foam sheets that were smaller than 4 feet by 8 feet. And then it comes down to dimension, like, I think the same size sheet minus the so I got the inch, and then there was also a ½ inch, and the ½ inch was $20, and the inch was $21. So then it comes down to this idea, does the extra dollar really make a difference? Am I going to spend the time stacking all of the the ½ inch foam to get to where I want to get to? Because I believe the brim of the hat should probably be around 2 inches, maybe even a little bit more. So I was floundering. Well, so that was the initial reason to be going to the department store, and then I was getting black spray paint for the hooves, and I think that's going to probably be our first step once I'm done cleaning up, is I'm going to take those outside. I'm going to spray all of that down so that we have a nice black gloss against the hoof. And I had a weird moment where I was debating, well, should I get the matte black spray paint or should I get the gloss spray paint? And that was kind of silly. and then the whole headgear idea came up, and so I found these nice metal rings, and I thought, well, if I still want to do that same wrestler headgear concept, I can do that concept with just 2 metal rings that I put pads right here on my ears, and then we can just oh me, oh me, oh my. You can see where I kind of am going a bit batty at the moment, and I'm trying to rein it in, but also when I try to explain it, then that's like cracking the old head right open, and it just kind of spills forth. Oh, goodness me. Goodness me. I had some really good, really delicious beef vindaloo for my almost lunch today, and that was real good. And so now I'm kind of a little bit like, I don't know why I needed to mention that. I'm trying to rein my own self in at the moment, if you can't tell. So we got our shoes on, we got our hat on, we got the parts for the things that we need. I did just remember something that I needed that I did not get, and I cannot remember what that is. We still have to make shorts. We still have to make shorts for Chopper, but I have the material, or I have a pair of old maroon jeans that the left side pocket where my Leatherman goes is completely ripped to shreds. There's already a hole in the crotch, and I thought, why not just use that instead of going to find something else? So at least we have that material. I'm going to be basing the cowl. And when I say cowl, that's the only term I can really think of besides like head mask, for what it's going to be based on this old Adventure Time like thin piece of headgear that kind of straps underneath the chin. But what I'm going to do is, instead of having it strap underneath the chin, I'm just going to have it as one single piece. My God, wow. Wow, right? Okay, I'm going to move him over to here. He can go there. Okay. Felt, junk. You know what? All of this is kind of junk. There's really no need to, like, maybe I can use that one for the ear. Maybe this can be used for the ear. That's still a pretty good piece right there, so we can save that. I kind of want to save all the leather I can just because of the price that leather is, but then again, you get things like these, so is that even worth saving? Is that even worth saving? But then I can just dump them all into there and not really worry about it. Don't need those, don't need that, don't need this. What's in here? This is all of our Hemlock, Hobby Lobby. Don't need those. I do want the sewing needles. Clothespins. Those can go in there. Now this is just a bag. This is also just a big old bag. So why not utilize it with some of our trash here? How about it? Here's our other foof that just kind of found its way somewhere else. Like that, I could think I save. That I save, that I don't. We have all this elastic that we didn't end up using or have not used yet because I haven't really done the research on how to actually adhere this, and then it comes down to, are we actually going to go back and do it? Can I achieve a similar effect by just when I dress up the hooves? Because what we are going to do with the hooves and the hands are going to be, I'm going to spray paint all of it black, and then I'll bring it back inside and we'll basically take material and try to lay it on there, and then we'll do the whole same process as we've done with all the other material parts, where we try to then guest check sew stuff. So that's part of something. Come on, foot, why aren't you going in? There we go. Okay, this is sewing machine stuff. Out of our 12 folders, we have 4 left, so I feel like that was a pretty good purchase. That really worked out in the long run, and again, it was great that Dad had just a random newspaper after me looking for newspapers all over the place. Oh gosh, come on, James, do we need all of that? What are we going to use it for once the project is done? That's something that I've asked myself. The first response I gave myself when I asked myself that question was, well, what if we attempt to make walk point? Like, let's say, the wishing well done worked, and we pierce the veil ever so slightly, and we get someone in some kind of authority saying, damn, look what James is doing. And then in response, they either say, make a better version of the boy, or you said you had a version of walk point. Where's that? And then we have to think about making walk point, and then that would make it good because we have all this extra material that we ended up not having to use. For better or for worse, I was able to figure things out with at least that first bedding of material, which was kind of cool. But then we also still have stuff that we need to make for the face, and so that could end up being not as good. I don't know. But if we end up doing walk point, then it would be pretty necessary for us to have all of that extra, because then we would have to, in some ways, drape the deer again, but in a more truer sense of the word, because then we would be draping the deer in all of its leg material, all of the upper body material, because in the idea for the walk point, I had the 4-point harness for 4-limbed locomotion. That's how I've described it. Basically, I am inside, or I am the deer, and then the limbs that extend out past the deer limbs would, as with the puppet, be draped in black or draped in black. And so we would need a lot more material than we would have ever had to use for the puppet, because we would have to be making a complete deer body with legs, arms, torso. And I definitely think we have enough fabric to do it. But again, for me to want to really go on to the walk point, well, I do want to go on to the walk point because it's a fun idea. And one thing that has been stopping me from really putting more effort into how walk point would actually come to fruition was the fact that I told myself I needed to focus. I needed to hone in on making brain point, because brain point, I hope, is what they still intend on using for a vast amount of chopper. If they don't end up wanting to do that, if they end up going with, and from here, from this point where I'm explaining it, I want to assert that what I hope they are going to be doing with Chopper, or just so it's for better explanation, I hope what they're going to do with Chopper is that they're going to keep Chopper as he is for the most part. The deer in the colors that he is at. So not Gus and not a almost Gus, I guess, if that makes sense. And when I say Gus, I mean the deer boy from Sweet Tooth. I have not seen that show either. So I say Sweet Tooth, and my mind right away goes Twisted Metal, and that's so crazy because now Twisted Metal got its own adaptation too. Again, brain over there somewhere. So when I'm referring to the point forms, I'm referring to the point forms as in as close similarity to that we have seen and have been used. And again, Netflix, Tomorrow, Maida, Oda, all of them could be thinking, Maida, all of them could be thinking in a different kind of context. They could have already decided that it'd be much easier to forgo trying to approach all the forms. I think that would be a very detrimental blow to the character of Tony Chopper, because I think one of the fun aspects of him not only is that he has all of these different forms that he can choose at will, but it also kind of fits the very doctor nature of Chopper. It is a tool for the certain job. He stays in Brain Point because he feels that he has a better approach to everything around him. It feels more comfortable to him, and I can't remember if it's something that's used further in, but his focus, where he's able to pinpoint defense like that. That's such a neat thing to have for that form, and that form is such a iconic form, the Brain Point. And then you have Arm Point, and Arm Point is what people are saying that they might do more so than anything else, because that would be a lot simpler. Like, all you'd have to do is find a really large cat to dress up in that same kind of clothing. And I guess in conjunction with my Brain Point, Walk Point, and I guess in some ways I feel that if I could do Brain Point and Walk Point, the efforts done for both of those, or like at least the things that would go into both Brain Point and Walk Point, could then be transitioned into Jump Point, because if we think of Jump Point, we just shrink it down ever so slightly. I already have the stilts, and then all we do is just add a little bit more drapery around, and then use the same muzzle that you would have on for the Walk Point. So I think I could possibly pull off Jump Point, I think, with a good pair of stilts, maybe some longer arms, or depending on how big the stilts are, I think I could pull it off. I think those three are the ones that I think I could actually pull off. The one that I don't believe I can pull off just based on stature is Arm Point, because Arm Point is a bigger lad. He's a big dude. He looks like a big dude. And a part of me worries in the sense that, because it would really diminish my idea, and then it would also remove the fact that Chopper was multiply changing all the time, is like maybe they only go with Arm Point for the vast majority of the series. Like, it's easier just to have a big dude in a I think people always keep memeing, is it Rock dressed up as Tails, I think is what it is. But gosh, man, I am so today. Anytime. We haven't even started yet. We haven't even begun. What was I saying? What am I getting at here? What am I getting at? I really don't know what I was getting at, to be honest with you. I guess, again, I'm just hoping that they want to do all of these forms, and if they want to do all of these forms, it's necessary for, I guess that's how it kind of was. I was talking about wanting to do Walk Point, but I was focusing on Brain Point because I assumed Brain Point was going to be the main, again, the main used point form as it has been in the anime and subsequently the manga. Well, I guess the manga and then subsequently the anime. And in also my mind, if the effort is done for both the Brain Point and the Walk Point, I think they could utilize Walk Point in a cooler kind of way, because then you have this kind of fun mobility aspect to Chopper that you don't really get to see in the show. And people keep saying, well, they're just going to make that a reindeer, like they're just going to make that an actual deer. And I think there is a risk if you go too far in one direction and you basically remove a part of Chopper to make another form of Chopper more realistic, you lose that other part of Chopper. If you do a brain point in some vein that I'm thinking of, whether it's a CGI version of it or whether it's something in that line, but you still have the stature, that small stature of the boy, but then you just do a random deer, it doesn't feel the same way because there's still aspects of Walk Point that feel like Chopper. And they could just do a deer with a hat on. Jump Point is a little bit kind of more interesting in my mind because, again, then you have that fun middle ground between Walk Point and Brain Point. And I guess the only kind of sidewall is Arm Point. We can talk about, and I've already talked about Guard Point. I think Guard Point can be done with a giant ball just covered in fluff. I think that's simple. I don't think we're going to get to Kung Fu Point. That's a time skip. Horn Point is a time skip. Monster Point can be done like you do. If you're going to expend any CGI budget on a Chopper part, let it be Monster Point, man. Make Monster Point so damn visceral that when we're watching it and for the first time that he does it, I think the first time was it, and I'm about to start to go off on another tangent here, but I think the first time that he does Monster Point is Enies Lobby. Again, if you're going to expend the if you're going to expend the budget to do anything with Chopper and CGI, make it Monster Point. Make it super, super cool. And I think it's Enies Lobby. And so I'm going to now move my brain into another aspect of this, just so I can keep moving forward, because I feel like I'm stagnating a little bit once again. As I'm delving back into One Piece, as I'm remembering more and more about my journey into the greater episodes of One Piece, I've been kind of retracing where I was, and on here we've talked about certain aspects that I liked, and because it's such a verbose series, because there is so much to One Piece as a whole, I think, or at least for me, I have been confused, I have missaid things, but I think the intention of what I was saying made sense, but I've also gotten things really out of order. And so to kind of, what's a good term to use? To put things into perspective for you as the audience, as someone who might be watching this, kind of listening to me drone on about certain parts that I have liked. I referred to Enies Lobby in a way that it was not. So Enies Lobby is a completely separate arc than what I thought. Well, Enies Lobby is a completely separate arc than what I was referring to. What I was referring to, and I've referred to Enies Lobby before, is I guess I meant Marine Ford. I forgot that Marine Ford was called Marine Ford. But also, I forgot that Marine Ford was after Enies Lobby. I forgot that Enies Lobby itself was its own particular thing. I forgot that Enies Lobby happened during the Water 7 arc. I forgot Water 7 as an entire name for an arc. I honestly thought that Frankie didn't come in to the Straw Hats crew until after Marine Ford, after the whole Whitebeard Ace situation. And then I also kind of, again, I've really kind of messed up my own timeline in thinking about this show. And so to put more context to context, I did find out, or I did go through and I figured out where I last left off the series, just so that there's a little bit better coherence in my understanding of the series as a whole, and like certain things that I kind of screwed up. For another thing that I kind of screwed up, I talked about a character in the G8 arc as this kind of fun shipwright character, and my mind attached the name to the meme that people associate with the G8 arc, but and I was talking about I think it's the Condiorio. So that character itself is actually a joke, because Usopp convinces the Marines that this Marine investigator is actually part of the Straw Hats crew named Condorio, or Condornio, however you pronounce it. I actually was referring to, when I was gushing and giving love to the G8 arc, I was referring to the shipwright in the G8 arc, because I actually thought for a second that shipwright was going to leave, and this is before I knew that G8 was a filler arc. And so in my mind I was like, oh my god, this is where they're actually going to get someone to help Mary as a ship, and I thought that was really, really cool. It turns out that was not it, because it's not a canon arc. It's just the best filler. That's all it really is. It's just the best filler. So I got that kind of stuff wrong. I just got I got timelines mixed up. I didn't realize that Impel Down itself was after Enies Lobby. I forgot the whole conjunction, or I guess I forgot that whole separation between Enies Lobby. In some ways, I thought Water 7, or at least the gaining of Frankie as a crewmate, the gaining and the loss. So the loss of Mary, the gaining of Sunny, and then I thought all of that happened after Marine Ford, which in fact Marine Ford is very, very far in some kinds of way. But again, I was rehashing where I was in the series. So I figured out where I was, or where I left off in the series, and it was just after the Fishman Island, like the underwater arc, where they're all down there and they're all trying to help the fishmen, and there's that one cat that has the devil fruit powers that he can keep throwing the same thing at the same area as long as he has this, as he can't touch something. I can't remember exactly what that was. But that's basically because I got through all of the time skips. I got through all, and I guess I forgot that the time skips happen before Marine Ford, which again I thought was crazy. I thought Marine Ford happened, and then they go to the one island where they meet, God, I can't remember his name, but the one crew member of Roger's crew. And then there's the whole slave auction. God, there's so much. There's so much to One Piece. And so, forgive me, I guess. Forgive me for saying things if I have said things that did not really make sense at the time, because I guess I really wasn't very aware of what I was saying. And that's not really an excuse. It's just more kind of like, I had no clue that my mind had been so skewed, or it had colored certain arcs with different names, or a myriad of other explanations. You got a few options, so it's up to you to choose which one you like the best. So that's been kind of interesting to go back through and really understand where the hell I was when I left the series. And it's so interesting, of course, now, and this let's branch off into another kind of thought, because I've never been much of a social media kind of dude. I have understood that it is something as an actor, as an artist, that is beyond benefit to you, because it is a great way for people to have access to you as an artist in a way that we never really had before. And as an actor, I definitely underutilized for the longest time the true benefits that is YouTube, because YouTube, and in some kind of way YouTube Live, is its own stage. It is a blank stage in that you can walk out at any moment that you feel like it, and you can begin performing if you so choose. I have not really taken advantage of that in the way that I probably should have. I am trying to now, here nor there. I have now I have now been trying to utilize social media to a better extent, and with that, I have been going on Twitter, not really working that well. I can't seem to pierce the veil through Twitter. YouTube again, not really, except for a few shorts that got really, well, I got one short that got really not well received. It got a lot of views pretty quickly, but it was also the one short that I would never use the word regret. But looking back, it was kind of like, why that one? Like, that was just kind of, it was a throwaway, me attempting to do Chopper's bashful nature. Cats didn't really like that. Got flamed for that one. That's okay. Again, the way that YouTube, the way that Twitter works, one would assume that it is literally throwing spaghetti at the wall, and then once in a while you get spaghetti in someone's eye, and then once in a while you get spaghetti on someone's plate. The other aspect of social media that I have begun or have been trying to implement was the use of Reddit. I've never really been one to be on Reddit that much. The most I used it for was for flint napping, was for Warhammer stuff. I was really, I really enjoyed looking at the ad mech. I really enjoyed looking at the Imperial Knights. That's really the only reason I got on there. There was a few communities from YouTube that I follow on there, like InRange, and But again, with this project, I've been trying to utilize what I can, because I'm trying to pierce through that veil. I'm trying to get someone in the other side. And when I say pierce the veil, what I'm really kind of referring to is that it feels as if there is this invisible wall, call it a veil. Like, think of it as if we are all walking on different sides of these curtains. And of course, we can get really into it in a very kind of spiritual, if you want to use it, that kind of sense, but in a more like metaphysical sense, like we all have our own veils around us in a constant fashion. And with social media, with the adoption of this different kind of aspect of how certain things work in the world, we all now have a more intrinsically, almost, we have a harder to pierce veil, unless you're in public. When you're in public, you kind of have to take the veil off and you have to be very much present. But for the most part, a lot of individuals now don't really interact with the world around them, myself included, in some kind of way. And when I say interact, it's more like, if you aren't part of this or that, there is not that high of a chance, there's not that likely of a chance that you are going to really get a response to it. So again, going back into the context of our situation here, I'm trying to pierce the veil that is the separation between us in the public and us in the public and those in the industry. And so what I'm trying to do is pierce the veil between this public, online kind of perception of what I'm trying to create into a way that it now is part, or it has at least opened up a small gap, and I am in some ways bleeding in, or the opposite way. They are now seeing this veil be opened up and like, oh, look at this cat with a giant puppet. What the hell is he doing? And so we're trying to pierce the veil. And so I am on Reddit. And Reddit has been pretty good with actually, like, the engagement has been a little bit better on there, I can say. So that's been nice. And so all of this is in some ways trying to pierce the veil, trying to get to that point where you notice me, I guess, right? Yeah. Goodness me, man. What has this already been? Almost probably an hour plus at this point, and I haven't even begun doing anything. Fantastic, James. Fantastic. $50 minutes. 50 minutes of me just kind of rambling and trying to reattach this head. It's not working very well. Not working very well at all. And so we're trying to pierce the veil. We're trying to get ourselves out there. I'm running against a non-existent time clock made by myself that could run up at any moment, or might have already run out. And the only reason we haven't heard anything about new casting or when things are about to happen is because of the strikes that are happening right now. That could be a real big imposition. It could be a real, obviously it's a very important thing that is occurring, but it's also what could be stemming the flow, or what probably is the lock of information right now to let the spillways go. And as soon as that ends, who knows? Like, they could come out with the full cast. Like, they could say that, oh, we've had Robin, Chopper, Crocodile, Ace, Vivi, Cobra, all of the Baroque work agents. We have all of this already figured out. We just had to wait in solidarity with those working in the union right now. That could all happen. Trying to pierce the veil. Running against our own time clock. We cleaned up a little bit. We gabbed a little bit about the fact that I misspoke on certain aspects of my my remembering of my experience with One Piece, because I missaid a whole bunch of stuff. And I didn't mean to missay it. I just said it with the wrong context. And just so skewed in... just so skewed. And now, I think, God, I hope, I think we can begin. I think now we can start. And the first thing, like I said, what I wanted to do was I wanted to go spray down these appendages here. God, I love the fact that I did the magnets. I know I keep saying that I'm going to kill the rotation on the feet, but a part of me also feels that once we get things attached, that doesn't make sense. Once I move on to the stage of adhering, how do I say this? We have our puppet. I now need a way to control that puppet. We've had some fun with me playing with the arms, and that's great and grand. But the way that I really would like it done is with rods and sticks. That's kind of how it's always been in my mind thought that we were going to do it, because I can't do it in the control method I would want to inside the chest of the puppet. where everything was controlled by a nice complex right here. That's a little bit past my... I don't want to say it's past my skill. I just think that it will take me a lot longer to actually get to that point, the R&D on there. The same with the walk point. I stopped allowing myself to think about that so I could think about at least putting out a concept here. And so we need to figure out a way to control them. So that's another part of the puppet that still has to happen, which probably means that we're going to have to derobe him again. And that's always a real issue. And if we're going to derobe him, that means that I'm probably going to go in and mess around with the joints once again, maybe remove a few screws, because now I know that at least with the way that this is set up, it can, in some